There was just this assumption that it didn't happen naturally, that IVF would work.
A lot of couples go into fertility treatment thinking it is going to be a magic bullet.
But unfortunately, that's not always the case.
They knew they wanted to be parents, but after struggling to fall pregnant, Carla and Nathan both had fertility tests.
And it turned out that, we both actually had issues. So we started our IVF journey.
That journey involved countless injections, blood tests, pills, hormones, scans. It became so all-consuming, Carla decided to leave her full-time job. She was 34.
It wasn't until we actually got into the program that I realised how full on it was going to be.
While her doctor retrieved 11 of Carla's eggs,
I thought that was excellent. We'd have 11 tries. Doesn't work like that.
only 3 of them were viable. After the first transfer, Carla fell pregnant, but miscarried 4 weeks later.
We then tried the second embryo, and again miscarried around the same time, around 4 weeks as well. And we only had 1 egg left, so we tried the third time, and it was the same situation.
They'd spent more than $25,000.
That was our house deposit. We had to decide whether we keep pushing forward and potentially getting into a lot of debt and getting further behind in our life.
Carla came to the painful realisation she wasn't going to be a mum.
We were childless, not by choice. I think that's the hardest thing, that you don't get a choice.
Sadly, Carla and Nathan aren't alone. Infertility impacts 1 in 6 adults worldwide, and there's a growing number of men experiencing infertility. Infertility means 12 months of trying to fall pregnant with no success.
Sometimes infertility is unexplained. We're unable to get down to the core of what the problem was. About 10% of people, even when they have gone through an IVF clinic, end up without a successful outcome at the end.
As a fertility counsellor, Narelle has seen countless couples question when is the right time to stop IVF, often with little or no support.
One of the hardest things about fertility treatment is it can feel like there's constantly being a little carrot being dangled in front of you. It leads to that question of when should I stop? Am I going to regret stopping now?
1 in 18 babies in Australia is now born via IVF, with more than 100,000 fertility treatments performed in Australia in 2022.
For me, being a mother was just so important. And we ended up with 12 reproductive losses during that time. So that was really heartbreaking. And the IVF is just this cycle of hope and then loss and despair. And so it's this real roller coaster.
Sarah and husband Kevin's IVF journey lasted a decade.
It would have been at least in the tens of thousands. I would be surprised if it was less than 100,000 if we really added it up. We did IVF, but we also did acupuncture, we did Chinese medicine. It was diet, exercise, it was everything lifestyle-wise, was all just focused on conceiving a child.
She was 45 when they completed their last cycle.
That was the part of me that so deeply desired to be a mum, knowing that she wasn't going to be realised. And it just felt like almost like the death of that part of myself. I hadn't realised how much really my life in a way had been taken over by this project of trying to conceive. And part of the reason we made the decision to not pursue adoption and not pursue other pathways to parenthood is we were done.
While there's no set time to stop IVF, Narelle says there's a point when hopelessness replaces hope.
Where you know that the cost of trying, and I'm not talking just about the financial cost, it's the cost emotionally, it's the cost to your body, it's the cost to your relationship.
She feels mental health support should be subsidised for those finishing IVF without a child, as well as a better social understanding.
The problem is we never know what someone's going through. You could be asking someone who miscarried yesterday. You could be asking someone who just spent 2 years trying in an IVF clinic. And, they could be breaking inside.
Each milestone is a reminder they don't have children of their own, but they have found life after IVF.
And being able to just learn how to actually embrace the wholeness of who you are. I get one life, and this is it. And it's actually really precious.
She now counsels others as they come to terms with not becoming parents.
And it might be the first time they've actually talked to another woman who's been through that same experience. And for the first time, the woman will go, "You mean that it's not just me?"
While Carla's found solace in being open about her journey, it never leaves her.
I don't think it ever goes away, the longing to be a mother. I often wonder how they would have turned out, who they'd look like. I think it will never go away, the grief, but you just learn to deal with it a different way, I guess.
But she's found purpose in other areas of life. Foster caring ADF pups, and she's now the mum of 3 retired dogs.
So my dogs definitely hold a special place in my heart. I have rediscovered my love of horses, and that's been a massive shift and massive focus in my life now. I love getting out there on the horse. It gives me a sense of freedom. But I think it's just finding those things that ignite you and keep you busy and giving your life purpose in another direction.
Seems so unfair that these families, these couples are desperate to become families, and they've got so much love to give, and they hang in there cycle after cycle until it's just too much. And to get to the end of that without having a baby in your arms, my heart breaks for them. I mean, 1 in 6 people struggle with infertility.
Really surprised
we
me,
spend
that number.
much of our early kind of years trying to avoid getting pregnant, and then all of a sudden the clock starts ticking and you're desperate for it. It's just, it's unfair.